On Zombie Reddit, today's story is...
My sister lived off my money and humiliated me at her engagement. The secret agreement I exposed changed her future. This situation began about 2 weeks ago when my sister's boyfriend proposed to her. She organized an engagement celebration earlier this week, but decided not to include me on the guest list. Our relationship had already been strained for some time, but this was the last straw. When I confronted her about why she hadn't invited me, especially considering that I had taken her into my home for a whole year without charging her anything, we got into a big argument. She replied that someone as stupid as me hadn't been any real help to her, and that she no longer wanted to keep in touch with me because she was fed up with my presence. Her attitude was so ungrateful and disrespectful that I decided to cancel a financial arrangement I had with her fiancé. Now she keeps sending me apologies, but I'm not interested anymore. If it weren't for my mother's intervention, I wouldn't even be doubting my decision. To put everything in context, my sister Janet lost her job as a copywriter due to massive cutbacks at her company. She tried to work freelance for a while, but the income wasn't enough to cover her expenses. When she couldn't pay for her apartment anymore and was evicted, she came to live with me. Before this, our relationship was cordial although not especially close. I took her in because I was moved by her situation. She was going through a really tough time and needed all the support she could get. As our mother lives far away with our uncle, I was her only family in the city. For the past year, my husband and I, who have a good income, have allowed her to live with us rent-free. And not only that, she didn't have to do any housework or contribute financially in any way. We took care of her like she was a child, and this is how she chose to thank us. My anger was understandable. In recent months, I had noticed that her mood had improved considerably. She went out with friends and did social activities, but she still didn't look for a job. Apparently she lived on her savings or on the money that our mother sent her every month, waiting to find something that she considered worth her time, which seems to me a strange attitude for someone of 25. It seemed to me an immature way to live and, given that her mental health had improved notably, I tried to motivate her to look for a job. This generated frequent arguments because she wanted me to stop pressuring her, while I thought she was wasting her time. Our relationship deteriorated in the last few months because she simply ignored my advice, which I considered sensible. Then, last month, I found out that she was pregnant. My husband and I decided that we could no longer have Janet living with us. The situation would become more complicated and we needed to turn her room into the baby's room. Fortunately, we didn't have to have that awkward conversation because, a few days after I found out about my pregnancy, Caleb, Janet's boyfriend, asked me to help him choose an engagement ring. Caleb and Janet have been together for 4 years. He has been by her side through the good times and the bad, and he is a really good person. Janet hadn't moved in with him before because they both worked in the same department and he had also been fired. The last year had not been easy for him either, but a couple of months ago he got a new job. He explained to me that he planned to live with his parents for the first few months after the engagement until he found an apartment he liked and could move in with Janet. He needed to save for a few months because, unlike Janet, he did not live for free with his parents and his savings had been considerably reduced. As I really wanted Janet to move in, I suggested a different plan, that he first find an apartment, move in, and then propose to Janet so they could live together. When he expressed concern about the expenses, I offered to cover Janet's share of the rent for the first few months until she found a job. My motivation was to have the house free before entering my second trimester of pregnancy. Maybe it was a bit manipulative, but I wanted to avoid putting any more strain on our relationship by bringing up the subject of her stay. It seemed like a win-win solution to me, so I didn't give it another thought. Within weeks, Caleb had found an apartment and we had finalized our agreement. Everything went according to plan. Janet moved in a few days after the engagement, but as soon as she had the ring on her finger and a place to live, her attitude towards me changed dramatically. I could see that something was wrong, but I never imagined that she would exclude me from her engagement party after everything I had done for her. When I confronted her, she told me that I was a fool, that I hadn't been helpful at all, that I had only been putting pressure on her these last few months, causing her unnecessary anxiety, and that she was glad I was gone. She declared that she wanted nothing more to do with me and blocked me. I was furious, so I called Caleb and told him that I was canceling our agreement because Janet had proven to be extremely ungrateful. I no longer felt obliged to worry about her or her well-being. She's an adult, she can fend for herself, and it's not my responsibility to feel guilty about this. Although this complicated Caleb's situation, at the time I was too angry to care. After a few days, Janet unblocked me and started sending me constant apologies. Yesterday I got a call from my mom telling me that my behavior had been strange and unnecessary. She pointed out that there was no need to manipulate Janet and Caleb to get her out of the house. I could have had an honest conversation with her and everything would have been resolved. Maybe she's right about that, although in my defense, Janet had been very difficult to deal with in the last few months and I didn't want to add to my stress by trying to have that conversation, knowing that she wouldn't take it well unless she already had somewhere else to live. My mother also mentioned that by withdrawing from the agreement I was causing unnecessary problems for Caleb, who was completely innocent in this whole situation, and that this was embarrassing for our family. I guess she's right, which is why I've been giving the matter a lot of thought. I don't think I should cancel the deal because that would make me the bad guy, but I really don't feel like helping Janet, especially after she called me stupid when I had done so much for her over the last year. I'm completely undecided and I need advice. Am I the bad guy for canceling the deal and creating problems for my sister and future brother-in-law? Update 1. Hi everyone, thanks for your responses to my post. After much reflection, I decided to talk to Caleb because I feel he is the only person who deserves an explanation from me. After all, he followed my instructions because he trusted me and I don't want to leave him in a difficult position. I told him that I will continue to support him financially, but only on the condition that Janet pays me back as soon as she finds a job. This will be my last gesture of help towards Janet, as after this I do not wish to have any kind of contact with her. In fact, I had this entire conversation exclusively with Caleb to avoid getting him caught up in the middle of the conflict. As I mentioned before, Caleb is a good person and I don't think it's fair to hurt him, especially considering his current financial situation. During our telephone conversation he was very understanding and told me that, although he understood my anger at the whole situation, he was really relieved that I had decided to keep the agreement, as canceling it would have put him in a very difficult position. He suggested that I try to reconcile with Janet, but that's where I draw the line because at the moment I don't want to have any kind of relationship with my family. Even with my mother, although she is right that I could have been direct with Janet about my pregnancy and my need for her to move out, I don't think she understands that I tried to be considerate of Janet for a long time, but she made it very difficult. What's more, my mother contributed to the problem by sending her money every month, even though I warned her that this attitude would only ensure that Janet would never look for work or become independent, but she completely ignored my advice. I feel like a fool because in the end it seems that my family only used me. Janet clearly used me to have free accommodation, without paying rent or contributing to any expenses, and my mother practically used me as a convenient solution to support Janet without considering my feelings or opinions. If she really cared, she would have taken my suggestions into account and tried to motivate Janet to get back on her feet by looking for work instead of just sending her money. She didn't even show any enthusiasm for my pregnancy. She was only concerned about the situation with Janet and didn't even bother to congratulate me. In short, although I am saddened by this family situation, I will not allow it to affect my life. I am starting a new phase as a mother and I want to do it in a positive way. I don't need negativity in my life right now, so I will keep my distance from both my mother and my sister. It will be difficult, I admit, because apart from them I only have my in-laws as family. My father died in an accident when I was 7 and shortly after we lost my paternal grandparents. We don't keep in touch much with the paternal side of the family, and I don't have a close relationship with other relatives either. It was always just my mother, Janet, and I against the world. Janet and I were very close when we were little, but we grew apart as we got older. Recently I thought we were reconnecting, but then all this happened. Now I think I'm better off without these people because, although I'll be alone, at least I'll live a stress-free life. Besides, even if I don't have my family around, I have my husband, and that's enough for me. Update 2: 5 weeks have passed since my last update, and today my mother showed up unexpectedly. As she had the day off, she was at home, and around my usual time of leaving work, the doorbell rang. I was very surprised to see her there because she normally prefers to stay in her city and does not like to travel or stay away because she finds it uncomfortable. The last time she only came for a day for the engagement party and returned the next morning, so we didn't even see each other. This time she explained to me that she had come because Janet wanted her to get to know Caleb's parents better. They had a family dinner and she traveled specifically for that, but now she knew about my pregnancy. I guess that's why she decided to visit me instead of returning immediately. Over the last few weeks she had tried to contact me frequently, but I had been ignoring her. However, with her at my door, I obviously couldn't pretend I hadn't heard the phone or that I was busy, so I had to let her in. We started talking and she told me that she really regretted her previous behavior, although she thought that my attitude had also been strange and unnecessary. She told me that it wasn't like me to go behind someone's back and make arrangements like that just to get them out of the house, when the same thing could be achieved with a proper conversation. Again, I had to explain to her that Janet and I had been having problems for months and I didn't want to make the situation worse. Even so, I was being the more mature one by trying to avoid any drama. I tried hard to help her so that she wouldn't be left in a difficult situation with nowhere to go. That's why I had to take these measures, and she would have understood it if she had paid as much attention to me as she did to Janet. She clearly had no idea what the situation was really like from my perspective. But I told her she was right, as she had recognized before. Even though we already had many conflicts, I should have told her directly about my pregnancy and asked her to vacate her room. He probably would have taken it well. And if not, I should have taken the risk instead of trying so hard to arrange a favorable living situation for him just to avoid fighting like a fool. At that point, my mother had the good sense not to respond and dropped the subject. She changed the conversation to my pregnancy and we talked about that for a while. But I still felt annoyed, so my responses were curt. After a while she told me she understood that I was still angry with her and that I had every right to be. However, at the end of the day, she was the grandmother of this baby and she really wanted things to go back to normal. She asked me to stop ignoring her because she wanted to keep in touch and follow my pregnancy. I told her I would think about it, but that for now I needed my space. Soon after, she left. I don't know what to make of this encounter, but at least we cleared a few things up. I'm not sure if I'll respond when she messages or calls again. But maybe I'll try. At least I'm not as upset as I was. So I guess that's some kind of progress. Update 3: Hi. It's been 3 weeks since my last update and my mother is still trying to keep in touch constantly. I have been responding occasionally. When I feel like it, I answer her calls and reply to her messages. If not, I just don't. But most of the time I don't reply, although at least I'm no longer completely ignoring her as I used to. I'm still not happy with how the family situation turned out. So I'm taking my time and she'll have to accept it if she wants to have any kind of relationship with her grandson. At least until the next grandchild arrives, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the situation with my mother has improved a bit, while with my sister it's the same. Emotionally we are still very distant and neither of us wants to have contact with the other. Since my last conversation with Caleb, she and I haven't spoken. But Caleb informed me that she got a job and in a few weeks she will start paying me back. I'm glad this is going to happen because I had almost given up hope of getting it back. I don't understand why it took her so long to get back on her feet, but I'm glad it's finally happening. It's for her own good, and I'm honestly glad that soon I won't have to be involved in this matter. Right now, all I care about is my baby, and the pregnancy is progressing very well. The morning sickness has started, so that's the only downside I've had. But other than that, I'm very excited about becoming a mother. As my husband knows that I don't currently have a good relationship with my family, he has been going out of his way to keep me happy and distracted. His family are also making a big effort, especially my mother-in-law, and I feel very lucky to be one of those women who have an understanding mother-in-law because she has been coming over frequently, looking after me, making sure I don't overdo things, and she has even started cooking for us. I can't express how helpful this has been. I'm a little sad that my own mother isn't doing anything for me, apart from trying to keep in touch. But I guess it's always been that way. I'm sure that if Janet were pregnant, she would have come to live with her. In that sense, I'm glad I'm not Janet because I don't think I could sacrifice my privacy. Update 4. Hi, it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and today I received Janet's first payment. She sent me a message saying that she had received her first paycheck a few days ago, and she thought it was appropriate to start paying me for all the help and support I gave her during the last year when she was going through a difficult time. She also said that she was truly sorry for her past behavior and that she hopes we can be friends again someday. I felt weird and emotional reading this, so I thanked her and told her I wished the same, and that was it. There are still several payments pending, but I hope she doesn't send any more emotional messages like this one because it honestly makes me feel bad about everything that happened and I don't need that right now. I just want to feel happy and enjoy this moment in my life. I don't want to focus on the past. Speaking of which, as my pregnancy progresses, my mother called me earlier this week and asked what I thought about seeing her every other weekend. She proposed traveling by bus on alternate weekends to see me and help me. Flights would be too expensive to travel frequently, so the bus would have to work. Either way, it's only a 6-hour drive from her city to here. I considered it, but then rejected it because, first of all, I know that despite how much she wants to offer her time to see me and help me, traveling like this is very uncomfortable for her because of her back and knee problems. That's why she doesn't travel much. And when she does, she takes flights even if they only last 45 minutes. I don't want to cause her any discomfort, and that was part of the reason. The other part was because, although we really appreciate the offer, I know that if he comes, he will want to stay at my house now that I am pregnant. He usually stays in hotels because it is more luxurious and it becomes a kind of vacation for him. But now the situation has changed and I know he will want to stay with me, and I don't want to compromise my privacy. Especially now with the baby on the way, we are both working intensively and we barely have time to see each other during the week. I am trying to complete all my work before starting my maternity leave, and he is working overtime to get a raise, so the weekends are our only time together and I don't want to sacrifice any of them. But as I understood that my mother really wanted to see me, I came up with another alternative. I suggested that she visit us on the last weekend of each month so she wouldn't have to deal with such frequent trips and she could still spend time with us. This seemed acceptable to both of us, and that's what we agreed on. My husband and I will have to give up one of our weekends, but my mother is making an effort and I'm glad, so we can handle it. My mother-in-law also thinks it's a good idea because at the end of the day, family is important and they could all see that, no matter how hard I tried to hide it, I missed having a good relationship with them. Of course, what happened wasn't right and she had every right to be upset, but if they are making an effort, I wanted to give them another chance that would also benefit me. So I think it's a good idea, and I really hope I can patch things up with my mother, as the situation with my sister is at a standstill, although I'm not particularly worried that she's all right on her own. At the moment, these little differences are not so important to me. I just want to concentrate on the future and make sure it's a positive one, because honestly, right now there's nothing more important than the baby, and I'm going to do what makes me happy, because as long as I'm happy, the baby will be happy, or at least that's what they say. Update 5. Hi, it's been a few months since my last post. I've only just got around to it because I've been really busy with the baby over the last few weeks. I gave birth to my daughter about 3 weeks ago, and she is such a joy. She has brought everyone together, and I couldn't be happier. My mother and I kept the agreement I mentioned in my last update, which was a long time ago, and she started visiting every other weekend. During the days leading up to my due date, she stayed with me, and it was really nice. She sincerely apologized to me. She acknowledged that she hadn't been a good mother and that she really wanted to make up for it now. Not just for her granddaughter, but because it's the right thing to do. She also explained to me that she loves Janet and me equally, but she had become a little biased over the last year because Janet was going through difficulties, and maybe that's why she wanted me to be more understanding with her. In that way, she didn't realize that she was being unfair to me. She apologized for that too, and I think enough time has passed, so I decided to forgive her. We agreed to work on our relationship and try to improve it. As for Janet, she had been gradually paying me back, and last month she made her final payment. During this time she hadn't sent any emotional messages like the first one, but after making her final payment, she told me that she really wanted to talk to me to sort things out and apologize for everything she had done. I decided to invite her to my house, and she practically broke down as she apologized, explaining that she had been in a bad place mentally and that was why she had behaved the way she had, admitting that she had been the fool, not me. She acknowledged that she had been ungrateful and that I didn't deserve any of it, and said that she was very happy that I had at least agreed to talk to her. So Janet and I also decided to try to rebuild our relationship and maybe get back to being as close as we were when we were kids. She has been visiting frequently since my daughter was born, and it seems that the baby really adores her, which makes me happy. As I mentioned at the beginning, the baby has really brought the whole family together, and I feel that everything has been fixed thanks to her birth, as practically everyone was there to support me during the birth and the maternity ward. My husband, his family, my family, and I think that day will always be the most special of my life.